Good evening and welcome. My name is Joe Plumba. I am the proud principal of Pleasantville High School. We are thrilled to have you here this evening. For the parents of the class of 2027, this is 2 Thursdays in a row. Good to see you again. For families who are coming for students in grades 9, 10, 11, it's great to see you as well. We have a robust offering of programs to share with you this evening. You'll learn about our honors level programs, our advanced placement level programs, and our dual enrollment programs. You will also hear about some of our program spotlights that we have to share tonight. Ms. Puglisi is going to talk a little bit about our science research program and a new partnership that we have with Syracuse University. And Mr. Lamar will be discussing our new this year fully articulated pathway in computer science through a partnership with Project Lead the Way. So we are thrilled to share this information with you, and I'm sure you'll have plenty of questions tonight. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is that before you go, you're going to have a little round table component here. Ask questions that you have. If questions pop up when you leave, tomorrow I will be sending out an update with a copy of this video for families that couldn't attend this evening, and also a feedback form on the bottom. I encourage you to ask some questions in that form if something comes up over the weekend or over the break next week. Additionally, just a quick reminder in regards to school counseling. If you're a class of 2027 family, you will be receiving a letter about your counselor assignment next week. I can't encourage you enough to please contact your counselors when you get back from the break. Speak with them about scheduling that appointment and developing that relationship that you'll have with your counselor through your students' 4 years here at Pleasantville High School. Without any further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Fondi, who has a few slides to share with you about our programs.
Good evening. Tonight I'm talking about with you a couple of things. One is honors courses, AP courses, and some other courses that are also offered to the school through various partnerships with colleges. What makes a student eligible for an honors course? In 9th grade, you're eligible for a course based on your student grades in 8th grade, on your transcript, your collaboration with the teachers, teacher recommendations, conversations with your guidance counselor. As Mr. Palumbo mentioned, this next week you'll receive a letter about your child's guidance counselor appointment. Later in the summer, when the schedule is mailed out, you'll have an opportunity to meet with the counselor if you have questions about the schedule. But it's also a good way just to reach out to the counselor if you have any questions. That's how a student is nominated for an honors level course. In terms of academic rigor, we'll talk about that later on with some of our department heads, in terms of what's the difference between an honors level course and a, quote, typical 9th grade course in terms of workload. An AP exam is an advanced placement exam. An AP course is run by the College Board. That culminates in an examination in May. It's a prescribed date for every child that's taking the AP exam in the United States. They'll take the exam on a certain date, and it's scaled on a 1 to 5 rubric. It's interesting to know with an AP end of the year exam, this does not show up in the transcript because the scores are not finalized and sent to the students in the school until the summertime. So when a child is taking, let's say, AP World in their sophomore year, or AP English in their 11th grade year, that AP exam does not show up in the transcript. However, parents can decide if they want to let colleges know about that score or not let the colleges know about the score. Again, it does not appear as part of the student's grade, and it does not appear on the transcript for the student. And then the last bullet is post-secondary credits. There's certain classes at Pleasantville High School that we have in partnership with local colleges and also with Syracuse University. I'm thinking of the Syracuse University's class, Women in Gender Studies. Students enrolled in that class for high school credit and also earn college credit. So the student's score will be shown on the student's transcript. Also, if it's the Syracuse course or a Westchester Community math class, that course will also show up on the college transcript. So a student that successfully completes that course will have that listed in 2 places, a high school transcript and a college transcript. Mr. Plumbo? The next slide is who teaches these courses. It's an advanced placement course that's a college level course. It doesn't mean it's taught by college level teachers. It's taught by our high school teachers who have taken classes, who have been accredited to teach these courses. So it's the same classes that your son or daughter might have for English 1 year in 10th grade. They might have a teacher in 11th or 12th grade who is a high school teacher who is also giving that course. As I mentioned, there's partnerships with 3 colleges right now: Syracuse University, Mercy College is a partnership that we have with College Italian, and the third one is Westchester Community College with some math courses we have at the high school for upper grades. Here's an interesting one: college credit earned. My child, let's say, was enrolled in 5 advanced placement courses. Let's make it 15 college credits. It doesn't mean that your child is exempt from 15 college credits in college. That is the determination of the college. Each college makes a separate decision. So for example, I'll give you a personal story. A good friend of mine's son is a junior. In his college, he took so many AP courses, he's graduating this year after 3 years, because that college he was going to accepted his 20+ credits for AP. However, other schools may not take any credits, even if you have a 5, which is the highest score. Another thing that schools might do is they'll say, the student successfully completed AP Government in 12th grade, therefore the student is not eligible now. They've already mastered the subject, they're not taking freshman social studies. However, you have to pick another course to take. And you might say, why is that? I'm sure financially the colleges have a reason for you to take the class. Also, they want you to take some more rigorous courses. So a student that's taking a lot of advanced placement courses here in the high school might have to take advanced placement courses their freshman year in college. Again, it depends on the college. And then I talked about the separate transcripts for colleges in Syracuse and Mercy and Italian. And it's interesting that the AP course, our teachers don't come up with a curriculum for an advanced placement course. They follow a step-by-step unit course of study by the College Board. There's some leeway in terms of the depth and breadth of each unit. Our teachers come up with their own evaluations, their own tests, but they have to follow a prescribed curriculum. All right. This time, I wanted to bring here, I think we're a little bit out of place here, but this time we'll bring up Joanne Puglisi in terms of our science.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome everyone. And hopefully I have it close there. This evening I just want to talk a little bit about our science research program. This is a new partnership we formed this year with Syracuse University. In the past we had a partnership with Albany University with bringing in Syracuse University for the Supra classes. It was kind of a natural fit for us, especially since the Syracuse University program provided a little bit more flexibility for the students, and we'd have students have that potential to earn those college credits. When we looked at the Albany program, they really weren't taking advantage of the credits, and it was very hard with their requirements. So Supra is a little bit more high school friendly for us to work with. As Mr. Bondi pointed out, it is a dual enrollment class. So our science research teacher has been to Syracuse University and is an adjunct professor at Syracuse University and is our science teacher here in our department. So what's nice about the science research program and a dual enrollment course is you are getting college level courses taught by high school teachers that really know how to work with that age level student. So it is a wonderful program. For the science research program, it is a 3-year sequence program that begins the sophomore year of school. So those of you that are 8th grade or 8th graders, yes, no, where my audience, 8th grade? Okay, great. This is a program that we have a little bit of time to think about, and hopefully you'll come out to our symposium night and actually see if that's something you might be interested in. But this dual enrollment class, you have the potential to earn 8 college credits, 4 of which would be during your junior year. from September to June, and 4 credits during your senior year, September to June. Contrasting that to Albany, Albany had a mandated summer component, which created a burden on the families. So this was a very good program for kids to get credit, and yet have the flexibility that you have a little bit of downtime with your kids during the summer. This type of program, and we'll go on to the next slide, this is that elite science program that you hear about in the news where kids are competing for the Regeneron shows, and they compete at the Westchester Science and Engineering Fair. This program is preparing them for that type of competition. It starts off in the first year, some basics of science research, and getting them up with presenting and how to analyze data and then report on that data. The students do begin authentic research. It kind of is a funneling approach. They start up very broad with their topics, and then you should hear some of the research program topics that they have by senior year. Amazing. This year we had 2 of our students just finish competing at the JSHS Symposia, and they did a fantastic job there. In the second year of that program, the first year, they have the potential to engage in a first-year fair. That's at Somers High School. The second-year students, if they're able to, at that point, they can compete in the Westchester Science and Engineering Fair. And then third year is like really the pull together all those competitions that are out there for them. It begins with the Regeneron Science Talent Search, and then we have the JSHS, which the students just competed on. And then WestF right now is what they're planning for. And then Science Genius and Tri-County come later on in the end of the year. All students do get the benefit of being able to present at an in-house symposia, which is at the end of the year. It's a great program. It's a deep dive into science. And the students do a wonderful job with outside mentors and everything. And we look for, I'm spying anybody, and we do this, we have no shame with it. If you know anybody that has connections, that works in a lab, or somebody that would love to work with our students, come see me at the end of the night. We'd love to foster more connections. Thank you. I'd like to bring back up for the first time, I'd like to introduce our curriculum coordinator, Mr. George Lamar.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for coming tonight. I remember back in 1992, I took my first computer science course. I was 7, and I had to type the letters in, you guys might remember this, before the letter went into the ocean and my game was over. That was also the last computer science course I ever took in my life. And then I think about that and I fast forward to today, and this is a digital world, and everything has absolutely exploded around us. And I think about a few years ago when we first started with the 2-in-1 devices, and we handed them to students and to teachers, and they said, okay, now what do we do with these? How do we integrate this? And then I think about to where we're at now. Several years ago, we met and we discussed the need for a computer science program and a computer science pathway. And that really stemmed from the fact where we don't want our children to be merely just consumers of information. We want our children to become creators of information and utilize computers and utilize the digital world in a way that best suits them. So what we've done is we've partnered with Project Lead the Way, who works with Fortune 500 companies. They get tremendous amounts of funding and research. And together we've partnered to put together a 4-year sequence in computer science. The curriculum is interdisciplinary. A lot of the activities that the students will embark on and what they'll do are real-world scenarios where they're going to be using data and their computer science knowledge to solve problems. Throughout the course, it starts off basic, it starts introductory, it starts off with programming, learning a variety of computer languages, Python and Java, and it's really all about problem solving. Each of the 4 years courses ends with an end of course exam where students will receive feedback on how well they mastered a specific skill. Each one of the courses is tailored and designed for students to go at their own pace and get support from their instructor. If we could go to the next slide. Our 4-year sequence is as follows. Freshman year, we encourage students to take Computer Science Essentials, where they will be introduced to foundational work. I remember the third week of school, I walked into that room, and students were playing with their phones, and I asked Ms. Bulgetta why, and she said, oh, they just created and programmed their first game. And that was really encouraging to see. Pretty soon they'll be programming and designing robots to do certain different commands. From there, the next course would be AP Computer Science Principles, which is a full-year course, followed by AP Computer Science A, that will be the Java language. And lastly, the final course is Cybersecurity. That course is a special course. It's not an AP, but it is a higher level course, because inside of that course, they deal with not only computer issues, but they deal with ethical dilemmas and how cybersecurity protects personal information, digital information, business information, and even national information. So that course blends and is a real nice takeoff for their future computer science endeavors. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to pass the baton to Ms. Rebecca Castellano. She'll tell you a little bit about guidance.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming. So I was asked to speak a little to what does this all look like in terms of why take these honors classes, how many honors classes is too many, or is it necessary to take them all and piggy pile them all on? So we'll start with the academic transcript first and foremost. The academic transcript is that ultimate record that colleges and universities will see as you're applying. As Mr. Fondy said, academic record or the transcript will not have the AP scores on that transcript. Those are standalone. Those are yours to own. The transcript will hold every class a student takes. It will hold the final grades. It will also hold the credits that were granted. For every year-long class, you receive a full credit. For every half year, it's a half credit. And we build together from one year to the next to make sure that you have everything you need for a four-year graduation. Having said that, why take honors, when to take honors, and how many to take? Ultimately, you're going to take that transcript and you're going to use it to apply to colleges and universities, right? Colleges and universities are going to ask one question more than any other. Has the student taken full and appropriate advantage of the curriculum offered within the high school? The answer is not, I've taken every honors in AP. The answer is, have you explored the things that are most interesting to you? Have you taken the classes that are interesting, that spark imagination, that allow you to delve a little deeper within the coursework? That's what the AP and honors programming and the science research programming and the Project Lead the Way projects are all about. It's about kind of digging in a little bit deeper and really exploring what your options are. When you're coming in from middle school to high school, you'll get recommendations. Recommendations are made in isolation of each other, meaning English isn't necessarily talking to Spanish, it's talking to math, it's talking to social studies. So some students may end up with recommendations in honors courses across the board. Just because they suggest you can do honors level placement work within all those courses doesn't necessarily mean that's the best fit for you. You got to think about how much time is involved in every honors class. And the answer is not, there's more. There is more to do. It's also how much more, the thinking behind it, the critical thinking behind it, the skills that you'll be developing, and how much time you'll give to that. So with 5 honors classes, with an elective, with sport, with arts, we want to really round out the student. And so the honors and the AP and the Regents classes are all supposed to work together in complement of what that student is most interested in or starts to get interested in, so that when they apply to schools, they're having this portfolio that follows them, not just of the academics, but also about the full picture of the student. What sparks them? Where's their interest? How do they speak about themselves? Those are the pieces that are important to college admissions. So I hit all 3 points. I'll invite Mr. Coleman to come on up, and thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Before we begin a little bit of a roundtable discussion, I just want to echo the sentiments that Ms. Castellano shared, around balance. We very often will get the question, Joe, what's the best program? What should the student do? Those are family by family, student by student decisions. I can't encourage you enough. I think I've already done it once tonight. I'll do it again. Please, please, please contact the counselor after the break, schedule a meeting, sit down, have a conversation, talk about your student interests, talk about what the whole day looks like for your child, and work together to build the best individual program for your student. In my experience, that leads to the greatest likelihood for success. So please consider doing that. What we've done here is we've put together a few questions, and we're going to have department chair people share some responses with you, and then we'll finish at the end with an open mic and an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might be thinking about right now as you try to digest all of this information. And I do understand it's a lot, which is one of the reasons why we've tried systematically to chunk this information for you over the course of the last 4 weeks so that you can get a good grasp on it. So the first question we'll kick off with, and I'll ask Mr. Franco and maybe Ms. Blanco to share some responses. What is the difference between honors, advanced placement, and dual enrollment classes?
Thank you, Mr. Colombo. Hola, good evening, and welcome. The differences of all three. To focus in on honors, it is a locally developed program. Students display strong aptitude in the subject, and an average of 90 or higher, and a teacher's recommendation is required for entry into the honors program. And that could be from 9th to 12th grade. As far as for AP, those that can enroll are 10th to 12th graders. It's an open enrollment policy with a teacher's conference. And all of us follow the College Board syllabi. It's taught at a college level. Higher expectations definitely than Regents and or the honors classes. And the credits are accepted at the discretion of the college or universities. Dual enrollment follows the curriculum, the curriculum followed, established by the partner schools. Okay. They're taught by us, the high school faculty, and college credit will appear on both the high school and college transcript. So what do they all have in common? They're upper level courses that challenge all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe, Mr. Franco, can you talk about the volume of work in our advanced courses, dual enrollment and AP versus, like, let's say, a Regents level course?
Sure. It's a very difficult question to not just give a very basic answer to, because it really depends on the course and obviously also on the student and what their aptitude is entering that class. Generally speaking, the honors classes and AP classes are going to be at a faster pace, and the curriculum is going to be different. So that pacing means that students are going to have to do a lot of independent work on their own to maintain, the structure of the class. As far as curriculum is concerned, the books, I'll speak for English because I teach English. The books will be different, right? The way the students approach those texts are going to be very different. What the students do with the information they're gaining in those classes is also going to be very different. Whereas in a Regents class, we might expect students to do a very cursory look at the text, right? In an English class, we're going to ask the students to go deeper, right? I don't want just plot information. I need to understand how that affects the story. Why does the writer choose those words, right? So it's a very much more deeper look into the material. And I would imagine that, although I don't teach other courses, that holds true for the other courses too, right? That we look really going far deeper into those courses. So back to the original question, how do we know how much work that's going to entail? It's hard to say, but you should anticipate that the child is going to have nightly assignments related to those classes and be prepared to put the effort in to succeed in those classes. Back to Ms. Castellano's point, yeah, if you're taking 5 AP classes or 5 honors classes, that's a demanding workload, and that really needs to be considered as schedules are made.
If I could just dovetail, that's one of the reasons why when we've had conversations with students and families about academic programs, particularly for our 9th grade students, we've encouraged taking one elective and then starting out with a study hall so that you can get and start on some of that work in the building before you go, and be aware that if you need some assistance. And so if you begin your work, like let's say 7th period, you're free, and you recognize that you might need some help, your teacher is available during activity period, right? So you can get to that person before you leave the building, which might end up saving you a lot of time in the evening because you might find a quicker way from A to B. So just something to think about, and it's one of the reasons why we have that counseling and coaching point around time during the day. Next question I'll ask Ray Prevost and Ms. Puglisi. Are there characteristics that most commonly are associated with students who are successful in the advanced offerings?
Sure, I'll take that one. Welcome, everybody. So, as you can imagine, there are lots of characteristics that folks would share who are successful in these rigorous courses. So obviously they're going to be mature, motivated, goal-oriented. They like to set a high bar, and they enjoy the work required to meet those goals. They're good with time management. They can balance the academic, the extracurricular, any family or social obligations. They are very good with their study skills and habits. They're usually well established. The study skills, they usually have, excuse me, they usually have good strategies, good habits, etc., and they're able to pull from those as needed. They're also able to adapt and adjust when they need to. These are students who know when it's important to study independently and when it's important to be part of a study group. And the study groups that they form, they're going to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're going to be very deliberate about who they choose to study with. They're going to look for those folks who are also academically oriented and have those same goals. These students know how to study anywhere and everywhere. They may be standing in the line in the cafeteria waiting for food, and they think, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to go through a list of things I have to have memorized. How many of you have spent time waiting in those lines, right? It's a great opportunity to study. These are students who know the gift of persistence and perseverance. When things get difficult or challenging, that's not seen as an opportunity to give up, but rather an opportunity to learn and to grow. They have a growth mindset. These are students who thrive in the academic world. They enjoy, digging deeply into the material, and these are the sorts of characteristics that they have. So I'm going to pass it on to Mrs. Puglisi.
So, Mrs. Puglisi, if a student's enrolled in honors or advanced level or dual enrollment courses and they're feeling overwhelmed, very challenged, where can they access supports or assistance in the building?
So I think we've got to go beyond the building first, and then we'll come back to that. So we have great in-building supports, as Mr. Palumbo said before, that 10th period, that activity period at the end of the day. Great way to come and get some one-on-one assistance or one-on-three and get little study groups going. It was interesting, I had a student the other day who we were working on Excel labs, and he came in and he sat with me, he goes, wow, this was great. I'm like the only one in here. You know how long this would have taken me? And just I said, come in, I get lonely. Come in, I like company. But I think, being a parent who had two sons who graduated from Pleasantville, I want to think that idea of that overwhelming comes, and you're going to hear that word a lot, I know Ms. Castellanos talked about it. Everybody said this idea of a balance. And, when I look at kids that are struggling and we talk and we try to strategize how we could help them, I'm shocked sometimes when they tell me they're in 5 AP classes and they're sitting down to start their homework at 9:30 at night. And it's that idea of this balance. And I think sometimes we have to remember that we're students first, and it's great to do all those clubs and activities and things after school, but they're extracurricular as well. We like to see all sides of them, so a little balance. We can't do 5 after-school activities, maybe 1 or 2 after-school things, have time for your homework. In addition to the activity period, we also have National Honor Society peer tutors. It's very difficult, though, I have to say, because I run National Honor Society, a lot of kids are hesitant to tutor people. And I think what we have to say is that idea of sometimes study groups happen naturally, and I think having peer study groups kind of for students that sometimes can't naturally form those study groups, I think it helps to get them into study groups. I know Mr. Palumbo sponsors after school in the library like 2 days a week sometimes, especially around peak study times. Great, that we have teachers in every discipline there and volunteer students to help. So there's a lot of things in the building, but one, the student needs to advocate and say, I need help. And then there's so many people here willing to help, but sometimes we're not mind readers either. Guidance counselors, they do a great job of coaching them through whatever's going on, the activity period, trying to have balance with, we can't do everything after school, pick a couple of things that we're passionate about, and talk to the teachers, talk to everybody. So communication key. Tell us what's going on, and we'll work collaboratively, come up with a plan.
Yeah, I can't agree enough. I can tell you, in my home, I've got 2 high schoolers that attend this building, and the first question I'll ask is, well, have you spoken, with your teacher? And then I'll ask, have you spoken with your school counselor? And I think as a parent, for many years in their lives, I tried to solve a lot of things for them. And part of their developmental, progress here at the high school is really encouraging them to take advantage of all that's here in the building. So if you could maybe think about, posing that question, and you may have a solution in mind, and if you're like me, you so badly want to share it, but just kind of suggest it to them, well, have a conversation with your teacher, speak with your counselor. And then maybe you do a back channel communication with the teacher or the counselor. Hey, I spoke with, my daughter or son, they're going to approach you today, they're having trouble with something. I think that communication piece and that teamwork, we are all so much more effective at whatever it is we do when we work together. So that's really important as we look to put students in the best possible position, to be successful, to be well, to finish here at Pleasantville High School happy and ready for whatever it is they want to pursue when they finish their years. The next questions are some nuts and bolts questions. We have a person in the building, Miss Nancy Newmeister, who works as the coordinator for our AP testing. We have over, what's the number, Nancy?
We have 587 exams being given this year.
So we are going to write 580 exams, which is a huge number of exams for a small school district. We've, just to give you a quick point of reference, we've got about 680 students in the building. So that's a lot of exams in a short period, because the College Board determines, what that schedule looks like. So Nancy will be communicating with you, sharing information about registration. She'll be talking with your students over the years. So Nancy, could you maybe just talk a little bit about the registration process?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm going to be the one who is going to be bugging you in the beginning of the school year to get your sons and daughters to sign up for the exam if they take an AP course. First off, they would have to create a College Board account. And I always suggest to everybody to use your personal email address rather than the school email address because the emails that they will send out, you will not get. You don't receive emails from outside sources. At the beginning of the school year, during the first week of classes, I will give a join code to all the teachers, and the teachers will relay that information to all their students. And then they can register for the exam for that class. This year, the fee for each exam was $97. Okay, so if a student's enrolled in 5 or 6 courses, you can see that can get kind of costly, and those fees are due by the end of October. And of course, I will always communicate with you, the due dates of everything. AP exams are also administered the first full 2 weeks of May. This year, it happens to be May 2nd. Next year, I think it's May 7th or 8th. They haven't come out with the exact schedule, but it's usually the 2 first weeks. If a student is absent the day of an exam, there are late exam makeups, but it is dictated specifically by the College Board, the exact date and the exact time. And I have to be really diligent on getting those exams on those days at the exact time, because everybody across the country is taking it actually at the same time. The exams will be given, or have been given here in the high school. We usually set things up in the gym. We have tons of chairs set up in there, and I will communicate with you exactly when, where, all of that throughout this whole school year. And if there's any questions ever, I'm always willing to help out and answer any questions that you may have.
So two things that come to my mind when I think about some of the communications that I've received, around the actual administration of the exams. The first thing is work closely with the school counselor. If you do have any accommodations that are related to, like, let's say an IEP or a 504 plan, it's a very different process for us to put those accommodations in place for that assessment versus one of our local assessments. So we have to get that information to the College Board or to the SAT, or excuse me, the ACT as quickly as possible, and they have a review process that we do not govern. So it's very important that communication takes place. The other thing is and Nancy mentioned this, in terms of rescheduling, again, we do not own that exam, so we are under strict, guidelines and parameters about rescheduling, moving dates and locations. So, the exam dates are typically published a year in advance. So I encourage, if you're thinking about signing up, for one of those assessments, particularly the AP classes, look to see what that looks like. Think about your travel plans, for the end of the year. I know that sounds like a lot to think about, but I just want to make sure that no one's disappointed in the end. The other thing I wanted to add on, and it kind of dovetails with the question that was posed earlier, what we've found is that one of the most appealing things about the dual enrollment courses for students is these big summative assessments are not part of the equation. So in other words, if you're taking our Afro American Studies class through SUPA, there isn't an exam that takes place in the second week of May. It's project-based learning, it's a portfolio-based assessment, it's a very different experience. I think for some students, that is why the dual enrollment courses are a little more attractive right now, in addition to some of the really exciting and interesting courses that we're offering. So that's something to consider, when you're weighing the pros and cons of doing a dual enrollment course versus an advanced placement course. And that's just based on some common questions that I've received in conversations I recall having in the last year or so. What we'd like to do at this point is open up for any questions that you might have. So if you've got a question, let us know. We'll do our best to answer. If we don't have an answer, we'll do some research and we'll get back to you.
I have a question with science research. So under Syracuse, what is now the usual commitment for the summer?
So you don't have to do any summer commitment at all with Syracuse. You could actually collect your data during the school year from September to June, which is one of the reasons why we went to a program that was a little more flexible to allow more students to have that advanced opportunity. We were hand-struck before. It was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks in the summer. It was rough.
For the dual enrollment courses, does the grade that appears on the college transcript mirror the grade that appears on the high school transcript?
That's a good question.
Yes, that does. And like Ms. Castellano had mentioned earlier, I think Mr. Fondi talked about it as well, you'll also have 2 transcripts. So and that's why they call it dual enrollment. You'll earn the credit here, and it'll appear on our transcript, and you'll have a Syracuse University transcript if you complete one of their courses, or Westchester Community College, or Mercy College transcript.
Joe, I also want to add to that, when you're taking a class dual enrollment with Syracuse University, you pay a nominal fee for those courses per credit. If your son or daughter is going to college, you might be paying $1,000 per credit. Here, you're only paying about $100 per credit. So it's not the same financial commitment taking those college courses here at the high school. Yeah.
Is it you choose one school, Syracuse, Mercy, Westchester Community College, or is it interwoven?
That's a great question. Now, some of our courses, the SUPA is Syracuse University, and we offer several courses through that program. You don't get to choose what college you can get credit for. So the African American Studies and the Women's Gender Studies are through the Syracuse University. College Italian is run through Mercy College, and the college math classes run through Westchester Community College.
We have heard from the student government that they would like some more SUPA courses. That's a little trickier than adding some of our local electives because people have to travel to Syracuse. They have to have a very specific transcript of their own to become certified as an adjunct professor. So we are kind of exploring some possibilities. The entrepreneurship course there looks kind of interesting, something that we might consider. But like I said earlier, for a few reasons, students are really interested in these courses because they are fundamentally different than the advanced placement in terms of the assessment strategies and the need to race through curriculum during the year. That's another one of the questions I'll typically get is, Joe, like why do these assessments in May? Why not do them in June? They're really worldwide assessments. Folks all over the globe sit for the College Board AP assessments, and we start the school year here in New York much later than many states, even in the region. So that's why teachers who are taking on that responsibility for those AP courses, they really have a lot of curriculum to get through in a short period of time, which does have an impact on the class. That's why I kind of like that global studies track for the 9th grade honors and the 10th grade global history, AP, because it's over 2 years. The American experience ends up becoming a little bit different because it's a 1-year course. and you've got to race through a lot of curriculum. So, it's an interesting debate, in schools about is that the best approach, and what I've seen here is we've got some students gravitating in a different direction, and I've heard some similar things, from colleagues around the College Board versus, like, let's say, a dual enrollment course.
Can I just also point out, I think sometimes there's fear that if I don't take advantage of an honors program in my 9th grade, or if I don't take advantage of an honors program when offered, that honors program in the next class won't be available, or that I'll be ill-prepared for AP programming moving forward. And so I just kind of want to address that. If the message is balance, and if as an incoming student you're looking at 5 and decide on 3, and then the following year you'd like to increase the rigor in 1 more, you can do that. It's always going to be a conversation, it always should be a conversation about how the previous year went so that it can feed the following year. Counselors meet with their students yearly on purpose so that we look at your transcript, we look at your graduation status, we look at your courses for the following year. We're doing that right now with our juniors, and we move on to the sophomores and the freshmen, and then eventually we will touch base with our incoming 9th graders as well. So again, although we meet once to talk about schedule, it can be an ongoing conversation, and more importantly, an ongoing conversation with the teacher who teaches that class. So if you're a student who's starting in Regents and decides, I'd really like to try this at the honors level the next year, go to the source, because they can help prepare you to get ahead of what you should expect as you move forward. So the doors are always open. It's not losing opportunity at all.
I'd like to go back to the question about the grades mirroring each other from the high school to the college. I'll just mention that we give numerical grades here at the high school, and then the college will send us a range of values to record as an A, or a range of values to record as an A-, etc. So they're not numerical grades recorded at the college level, they're alpha grades.
Other questions?
Yes, I also have a question about science research.
Yes.
So it's a 3-year program, right?
Mhm.
Basically, it starts from sophomore year.
It starts from sophomore
But at the
year,
same
right.
time, it's the prerequisite is 10th grade, a successful completion.
That's right, that's when it begins. So it begins 10th grade, so it's a 10th, 11th, and 12th grade program.
So any student who is interested in taking those science research classes, that he has to finish 10th grade science research course in 9th grade?
No. The program begins in 10th grade. So it's 10th grade, and that course has to be completed before you can take the 4 credits in junior year for college credits, and then the 4 credits in senior year. So the 8 credits for college come during the junior year and during the senior year, but in order to be able to sit for those credits, you had to have completed the sophomore year program.
But Lacey, is it common for people enrolled in science research to also take another science course?
Yes. So most of the students are enrolled in one of those traditional science classes. And we say traditional, don't fear that. Chemistry, biology, physics, as well as a science research. Science research class meets 3 days a week out of the cycle, in which it can tag with their gym class as the other side, or another half or a quarter elective, right, Rebecca, would that be? If it was?
You can alternate it with the classes that meet every other day.
Right, so
Yeah.
a lot of
we have
times
a
it fits
handful of
into a
those.
spot with like
Yeah.
gym or something, but that's a three period a week class. Because it's fostering a lot more
schedule.
independence, but that was a good question.
Okay. Question?
Regarding computer science, so for the 9th grade computer science class, is that an elective? Is that one, like, how does that fit in with the rest of the schedule of their science or math classes?
Yeah, so our recommended sequence of studies would be computer essentials for the 9th grade students. And if you think about that 9th grade, I showed a typical schedule last week. You've got your core 4, a world language, your lab and your PE class, lunch. It's very important to have that lunch period during the day. That leaves you with 2 periods to round out the 9-period day. And if you took computer science, it would be one of your 2 periods as an elective.
Is it every other day or is it every other day?
No, so computer essentials is a full year course that runs every day in our 6-day cycle. Yeah, I believe all of the computer courses, full year course, you know, for a 6-day cycle.
Can I go back to the science research every other day? Don't think because it runs every other day that it's half the load. It is,
I
it
think it's
is,
more challenging.
yeah, it is very challenging, but because the students are working on individualized deep dives, they need time on their own to work, so you're not in class every day, but it doesn't mean it's like a half a class. It's a very robust
It's
class.
not uncommon to find the science research students in the science teacher's room at all odd periods of the day,
Yes.
after school, like doing work with them, because they're really pursuing, you know, for lack of a better expression, a passion project. They're, you know, engaging in research is something that's really important to them, and, you know, once you light that fuse, it takes off,
Yeah,
and students become
And it
very
definitely
excited about
becomes
their work.
it becomes a departmental course, you know, like the teacher has a certain area of specialty. We have to tap our colleagues because we're all content specialists. If the student's doing a physics project, we have sent them down to Ms. Prevost for stats and, you know, to the PE classes. We had our buildings and facilities helping us do a deep data dive when they were doing energy conservation. So it becomes all of us. That's why I recruit and I look and I'm saying anybody who has any connections, come see me at the end. But it becomes a village project because we do need that input from everybody.
Well, I want to talk about a major difference between a middle school environment and academics and a high school environment. In the middle school, it is teacher and adult driven on what courses you're going to take. In a high school, the program is student driven. So you're hearing all these electives today. You're hearing the super courses, the Introduction to African American Studies. You're hearing the science research program. You mentioned the courses with the science courses, the computer classes. Don't think that your kids are taking every single one of these courses. All right, it just doesn't work. Your child might take the computer track classes. Someone else may never take those classes. Your child might be in the science research class, whereas many kids might never even take those courses. So these are offerings. They're not requirements. The requirements are 4 years of English, 4 years of social studies, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, and a world language, 1 or 2 years, depending on where you are in school. Everything else is an elective. All right?
Yeah, we haven't even talked about band, chorus, or
Yes,
orchestra.
yeah.
Right? So some students come over, like, you know, those finer performing arts will factor into their thinking about, you know, the day. And like we've said, there is the temptation to try to do everything. And I think if a lot of us reflect and we think about the times in our life when we tried to do that, we may have experienced some success. And I think we probably would think better of it, you know, going forward when we try to do everything versus, you know, focusing on some significant areas of interest, you know, when we're focusing on lives. Yes?
Kind of related to what you were just saying. If our kids, especially the ninth graders, if they kind of overreach and they try and do too many honors courses, what's available to them to kind of change that and fix that? And how late can they actually kind of figure
Right,
that
so
out?
we do our best to support students throughout the year because we do get those requests. You know, the beautiful thing about a small district is we all get to know each other and we've got great relationships. You know, one of the challenges from a scheduling standpoint is I don't run 13 sections of each class, right? So if we do have to make changes to a schedule after the school year has started, you know, it is a little bit of a puzzle piece to try to make it all work together. We do that really in collaboration with the school counselor, the teacher in the class, because really what we're going to try to do first is coach and counsel the student to be successful in the class that they signed up for. If ultimately it's just not working, you know, then we've got to go to the drawing board and see how we can make the best out of the situation that we have if it's necessary that we make a move. You know, so there are instances when that happened, you know, and we discourage you to just, you know, think, well, I'll just make a move at the end of the first semester if it's not working, because in a small school district, like I said, I don't offer, you know, a dozen sections of a particular course. So a change in one part of your schedule could result in a ripple effect on your other academic or elective offerings. And then in that case, in that situation, we've got to make a decision about what's most important for the student. So, you know, we do our best to accommodate all of our scheduling requests. I think Joyce Connell accommodates over 94% of the requests that we get from our students, which is a great number. And then, like I said, if we change it down the road, it is a challenge, but we do it because we want to support students. We want them to be successful, we want them to be healthy, we want to support them.
Can I chime in with that?
Yeah.
Probably one of the best things, I mean, the counselors here do a great job with, talking with the students, and I've come in with Rebecca, and we've had conversations in all the department chairs, when you're on the fence, right? And then we take our time, and we'll do another meeting. I say, schedule a meeting, I'll come in, let's talk through it. When I reflect back of 37 years of teaching, the times that these problems come up, and do I dare say, is when we've said and we've coached and we've begged and we say, please, that doesn't look like a good fit. And the parents are like, okay, thanks, I heard you anyway. And they do it. And then we're like in the middle of the year, we're like, okay, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, there's just so much. But I say, like, as I said before, 2 kids coming through the school here. There's a lot of good advice. And we want to be mindful of what the kids' interests are. But the ones that come into trouble are the ones that, like, and I'm like, what to say?
Well, I think the really tricky spot you get into as a parent, and I can say this because I've got a 9th and 10th grader that just went through this. Dad, all of my friends are in that other class, right? That's something that I've heard in my house. And I tried to coach, counsel, parent, and I couldn't convince, my student that it probably wasn't the best idea. And it was, the 9th grade, was a challenge. And, she made some changes in her 10th grade year program. So, I understand where the pressure's coming from at home, right? Which is why I think it's such a good idea to partner with the counselor and kind of work together on some strategies so that we can get to the best possible place for your student and their individual program, not the program that a friend group might be enrolled in. Yes?
If a student is enrolled in an AP course, can they elect not to take the AP exam? If so, how does that affect the course designation and the weight of it?
Yeah, so students who are enrolled in the AP class are required to sit for the exam. If they do not sit for the exam, they lose the weighting and the AP distinction on the transcript.
Does it move to like a Regents level or
That'd be
honors
right.
level or?
They would remove distinction, so it would be as if you completed the Regents level course.
So, I completely agree with everything you have said about balance and taking classes based on passion and interest. But at what point, do you ever have students who look back and if they could do it differently might, maybe because they didn't quite earn higher grades as they would if they wouldn't have taken an honors class? Like, at what point do colleges want to see good grades versus honors level classes? Like, which is the...
I'm going to ask Ms. Castellano to take that one. I'll get the part of the school
That's all
counselor.
right, we'll look you over, Rebecca, don't worry. We're like, you're taking that question.
Thank you. So, I think that, yes. I mean, that is a conversation that we have in our offices, and I really wish I had such a simple answer, and I really don't, right? So it's kind of like how we've all lived our lives. If I coulda, shoulda, woulda, I would've. And sometimes students need to have those experiences as well. So the question is always posed, is it better to do 90s level of work in a Regents class versus 80s level work in that AP or honors class? It depends. It depends on who your student is. It depends on their interests. It depends on the story that you tell in that application. It depends on what everything else looks like. And is it one class that's going to get you out of school? No. College admissions is a holistic review for the most part. For the most part, depending on the schools that students apply to. And this is where, having a broader perspective is incredibly helpful. When you have students starting high school with the understanding that the only reason I'm doing these next 4 years is to get into that school, whatever that school is, part of the journey is not going to be fun. And the next 4 years, I'm going to challenge you to have a good time, appropriately so. Think about the academic fun. Think about your friends. Think about your clubs. Think about doing the things that you enjoy, not because they look good, it's because you really like them. Like, often I love my seniors, and I have one senior who's flying around the building all the time because they are involved in about a dozen activities. And I'm like, you need to stop now. Pull yourself down, do 3. I just can't. I'm in. I'm like, all right, but you can barely sneeze. Like, there's no time in the day. So Her coulda, woulda, shoulda would have been, I should have done 3 activities, not a dozen. She's passionate about them all. So again, it goes back to your kid. It goes back to the things that they enjoy. The 70 is not going to look good, just plain. The 70 is not going to look good. So better to kind of work towards your strengths and build your skills so that you can hit the 80s if you're going to move a level up. And that's why these conversations are so important. I tell my students I don't speak teacher. I don't speak math. I don't speak English, literature. So when they ask me, well, what do you do in that class? I can tell you what the course description is, but then I'm going to punt it back to the teacher and say, help them understand the differences, help them understand what they're stepping into. And then the kid always goes, I'm going to go talk to my friend, which is great. That's another point of resource. I encourage that. And then come back, let's have a chat about it, and let's make a good plan. Because we want to look at growth over time. It's 4 years of high school. So 1 year is not the end-all be-all, just like one class is not the end-all be-all. So I wish I had an easier answer. We'll just work through it together, really.
I think it's great that you offer so many, a variety of different electives throughout the years. And I know that my son, he's like, I'm not really sure what I want to do when I grow up kind of thing. So I'm curious if, do you provide any kind of, I guess, if he's good at a certain subject and he likes it, but he's not really sure he could do anything with it, so to speak, as a career, do you recommend that would be something that he should take the honors class because he's good at it, he's interested in it? And the second part of that question is, do you provide any kind of career days throughout their high school course that might make them think, oh, you know what, I didn't think about that, but I am interested in something like that, maybe I'll take this on.
Yeah. Rebecca, do you want to speak to career days and career counseling?
Can you repeat the question for me?
Sure.
Yes. I would encourage you to take the classes. This is 4 years of free education except for those AP fees. So if this is an opportunity to explore or start to explore an interest, even if you're not really 100% sure of what that interest looks like, yes, I think it's a good idea to start that journey. There was a great panel of college admissions. Okay, this is my gig, so I talk to college admissions counselors all the time. So I thought it was a great panel. But I was sitting on a great panel with college admissions, and it was the Binghamton rep who's been working with us for about 10 years said to me, or said to us, high school is the start of the exploration. Let college be the continuation of the exploration. And I love that because, yes, take those classes. We offer them for free. What a great opportunity to do an intro computer science class, right? And not have to pay thousands of dollars at the college level. What a great opportunity to start delving into sciences at a higher level. If you don't care for it in the 10th grade, you can get out. It's really okay, and it's not going to look bad because you can look at variety within your programming. So I hope I answered the question. Yeah.
Can I throw a little bit on that one? So in terms of getting to know different fields, like in science class, when we're teaching different disciplines of science, we always talk about career explorations within those classes and fields of study, because they sometimes really don't know about different areas. So for example, in my AP chemistry class, I talk about material science classes and engineering and just all the different possibilities that are out there to explore. So part of our built-in, our curriculum within a curriculum is explorations, and I know you do the same in the math classes and in the other departments as well. These are some jobs, like this is, did you know that in a nuclear power plant you could do this, or, so it's in there too, to help them, because it is a job.
We recently heard from the student government. They suggested that perhaps we might introduce some type of career day here at the school. So you will be hearing from us, looking for some volunteers to come in and share some of your experiences. I'm not sure if we're going to get that off in the spring or if that will be a fall event, but it's something that we're looking at doing here. We also bring students, as part of their 4-year experience over to the Southern Westchester BOCES Vocational Center, where they've got a number of vocational programs. HVAC, electric, they've got an engineering program there, they've got a clinical nursing assistance program there, they've got wonderful programs. We bring large groups of students over, we encourage a lot of that. And I know in the 9th grade, I think they do an interest and skills inventory, as part of our developmental school counseling curriculum.
Right, so in the middle school, it was started, I believe it was like 6th or 7th grade, you guys did Naviance and you started looking at potential careers. And then when you come into the high school, we're gonna look at that again. BOCES for years, Southern Westchester BOCES, prior to COVID, they hosted a career fair, and it was great because it was all the schools from Southern Westchester who would go to BOCES and they would hear speakers who were working in particular fields. It was awesome. COVID hit, so we haven't done it in 3 years. It's coming back next year, and I'm excited because it was a great opportunity for students to learn what they didn't like. Like, I loved it when a kid would go, my favorite is the bus ride back. I'm like, how was it? You've always said you want to be an engineer. How was it? And like, that was not what I thought it would be. I really didn't like that. I'm like, that's great. Let's look at what you did like now. So they got to see opposing careers, and it was a wonderful opportunity for them to check it out. Yeah.
Are there any students that do BOCES and AP? Like, is that a possibility, or is it one track or the other?
Well, it's not one track or the other. I talked about the pros and cons of a small school versus a large school. We participate in the PM BOCES program and Southern Westchester BOCES. So our students leave here 5th period.
Yeah, like 11:40?
So what that results in is a smaller window for the courses here. So you more likely than not wouldn't have access to all of the courses. You would have access to some of them, and it's an individual year-by-year thing. And like I said, it's only because we participate in that afternoon program, so we've got 5 periods to get the academic work done here, and then we send students over on a bus. They spend the late morning and early afternoon there. They come back at around 3 o'clock, and then they participate in athletics and the arts and all the activities that we have going on after school.
I can think of a student recently that was in AP chemistry and then culinary. And so you have that dynamic that, it was great. He loved cooking and he loved his science classes. He married a and if we think about it, chemistry is not that far from cooking anyway. So, it was an interesting mix. So yes, it is, as Mr. Colombo said, it's possible.
Yeah, the window is just a little tighter, so it's a deeper dig on the scheduling side.
Mr. Plumbo, I know that people are here, 8th graders, the most. I take part with our seniors. We have a senior internship program the last 5 or 6 weeks of school where kids select businesses that they want to work in. So in terms of career exploration, they're looking into fields they may want to study in college or for the rest of their life. So right now we met with seniors a couple of weeks ago, and right after the vacation, we're going to start the process full-time in terms of deciding what your internship's going to be. All of our seniors participate in the internship program the last 5 weeks of school. Instead of going to school, they manage their time at least 25 hours a week in a business field or business in the community. A lot of times kids really like that. I had a student last year who I helped get an internship at the Pleasantville Courthouse, working for the clerk's office, and this person had no interest in the law, and at the end of the year, this person now wants to be a lawyer. I've had likewise other experiences where kids wanted to go and work in a different type of business, and like you mentioned with the engineer before, they didn't want to do that after experiencing that job for 5 or 6 weeks. And we've had kids do things that were just what they thought was fun and entertaining and good for them. We had our valedictorian and salutatorian 6 or 7 years ago. They worked at Hilltop Hanover Farm, and they farmed every day. So that's something they wanted to do.
Yes.
So you had mentioned we should be setting up meetings with our child's counselor once we find out when they are. Will those meetings just be for the parents, or will the students be involved in that too?
So those meetings will be with students and parents. When you get the letter that gives you the counselor assignment, there'll be some directions around scheduling those meetings. I encourage you for that first meeting to get involved, and then maybe kind of take a little bit of a step back on some subsequent meetings, and then maintain an open line of communication with the counselor. But I think it's really important, for the families, the adults that students live with, to meet that counselor, to start that relationship so that, during the 4 years, you really work as a team, to put your children in the best possible position to be successful here at high school. They will all find success here at Pleasantville High School, guaranteed.